lasagna took 6 hours. Most of that was filming, should have only taken 3. But this dish is a definition of a labor of love. So here's how someone allergic to tomatoes makes it. Thanks to the magic of substitutions, no dish is impossible. They just look a little different. Which is great for someone like me who's allergic to tomatoes, dairy, garlic, onion, a whole bunch of things. Because if it weren't for substitutions, I'd never dream of eating lasagna. And I've been eating it all week. So when faced with a recipe that uses tomatoes, I use mangoes. Why? Well, like tomatoes, mangoes are sweet rich fruits that break down easily, forming a sauce. I've shown this idea before, but you asked to see it again, this time with lasagna. So sit back and enjoy a lasagna recipe that'll make your taste buds go meow. We're starting things off by grabbing 14 ounces of Crimini mushrooms and running them through a food processor. If your food processor is just a little guy, feel free to do this in batches. You're aiming for light, fluffy crumbles, like this. Spread those out on a lined sheet pan so that you get a nice even layer. Our goal is to cook off as much excess moisture as possible. Toss your mushrooms in a 400 degree Fahrenheit or 204 degrees Celsius oven for 25 to 30 minutes. Look at that color. You know, in cooking, tanned means tasty. Let's get started on our sauce. If you know lasagna, then you know the sauce usually starts with a sofrito. And that's sofrito, not sofrito. There's a difference, see? 2 F's and 2 T's. No, that's actually not it. A sofrito is a mix of celery, carrots, and onions, while a sofrito isn't. It's got green peppers up in it. You know what I mean.
Now, onions and I, we're not on talking terms. It's not me, it's them. But I bet you didn't know that when being used to bulk up a sauce, like in a sofrito, onions can be subbed for celery.
So that's a double dose of celery and a carrot, right? Well, it could be, but we can do better.
Oh, I recently got this book, and if you are familiar with food pairing, it's the idea that ingredients who share flavor compounds taste best together.
Looking at mangoes, we see that boiled parsnips share over half of its flavor compounds with mangoes. They're practically siblings. Parsnip is the #1 substitute for carrots, so it would make sense for us to take advantage of that and maximize flavor. Now that our sofrito is sorted out, do you want a celery pro tip? Celery has these nasty chewy bits known as ribs. And if you aren't a fan of chewing industrial strength plant matter, you can actually get rid of these very easily. Grab a peeler and run it over the back of your celery. See, now your celery is ready to eat and you have these nice little ribbons to use as stock fodder. They may be nasty to chew, but they taste great. Time for the fun part. Heat roughly 2 teaspoons of EVOO or extra virgin olive oil in a pan. Once hot, add 1½ teaspoons of freshly chopped basil. We're going to be cooking this until we're swallowed whole by the sweet scent of basil. No harm in enjoying it, but we should really move on. Add in a ½ teaspoon of dried oregano and a 1/4 teaspoon of paprika. Allow those to toast slightly before dumping in your veggies. Mixy mix. When that's had time to make friends with the other flavors in your pan, toss in your roasted mushrooms. And get to mixing again. This recipe is really becoming an arm workout. Time to put the sauce in our sauce. Add 2 cans of mangoes into a large bowl. Using a hand blender, blend into a thick sauce before pouring them into your pan with 2 cups of water. This is where you can evaluate how things are looking. For example, I could see that the ratio of mangoes to other ingredients was off, so I added another can. This brings our total of mango cans to 3. And now that things are starting to come together, we need to even out these flavors. No one's hiding that mangoes are sweeter than tomatoes, but we can fix that by adding acidity. This is because sweet and acidic flavors balance each other out. My favorite acidic ingredient to use is a spice called sumac. Think of it like powdered vinegar. I find the perfect balance to be 1/8 teaspoon of sumac per can of mango. So, for our recipe, we'll need 3/8 teaspoon. That's right, mangoes, you're gonna taste like tomatoes and you're gonna like it. To finish our sauce, we're going to add salt and bring everything up to a simmer. Allow that to reduce for 1 hour. This will create an amazingly complex flavor that will be sure to knock your shirts off. Never really got the whole sock thing. While that's stewing away, let's move on to possibly the most important part, the cheese.
Obviously, being allergic to dairy means I can't just load this thing up with ricotta and call it a day. But I can still make it taste great.
Starting us off, we have 2 packs of dairy-free cream cheese. Now, being that this is cream cheese, it's going to be thick, and not in the good way. Trying to work our cheese into this is more of an arm workout than I'm ready to sign up for. So we're gonna skip a few steps ahead and add 2 eggs and 2 tables of dairy-free plain yogurt. This is going to help thin out our cream cheese, making it easier to work with. Now we can add our 2 cups of dairy-free parmesan and 1 cup of dairy-free mozzarella with relative ease. Then toss in 2 teaspoons of basil, a teaspoon of freshly chopped parsley, black pepper, salt, and another pinch of sumac. This will help blend the flavors of this to the flavors of our sauce, while also toning down the sweetness of the cream cheese. That's what we call getting 2 birds with 1 spice. Next, in a pot of boiling water, toss your lasagna noodles. Yes, I'm using box noodles, they're fine. If anyone gives you a hard time for busting out the old box of noodles, just send them to me. These things are so buried in cheese and sauce, you shouldn't be worried about how they taste. If you are, then you have bigger problems, like a severe lack of cheese and sauce. As long as your noodles aren't a big pile of pasta mush, your lasagna will be a-okay. Now take your noodles out slightly before they're done and place them in an ice bath to cool down. This will stop the cooking process so you don't end up with that big pile of noodle mush we talked about. Before tossing out your pasta water, make sure to put a little bit in your sauce, or someone in the comments will be sure to remind you. In a large baking dish, probably your largest, we're going to start assembling our lasagna. Place 1 layer of sauce, a layer of noodles, and a layer of cheese. Rinse and repeat until you have just enough sauce left for 1 last layer. Now top with an unhealthy dose of cheese. I'm using the new pourable mozzarella because it's really good for browning. I'm just gonna stop you right there past me. This was a mistake. The bottle warned me not to use a thick layer, but I like my cheese thick, so I didn't listen. And I ended up having to torch the top for it to even set. So if you don't want to end up busting out the kitchen torch you either do or do not have, then don't be like me. Make this easy on yourself and just use the same cheeses you mix into your filling. Okay, back to the video. With your masterpiece now ready to bake, cover it with foil and place it in a 375° Fahrenheit or 190° Celsius oven for 25 minutes. Then remove your foil and continue to cook until nice and golden, about another 35 minutes. There's a reason they call cooking a labor of love. This lasagna was definitely hard work, but I felt so loved. From my kitchen to yours, eat happy.